Hey guys, this is Justin. Hello and welcome to another video. So it's been about 2 weeks now since the finale for the Book of Boba Fett, and I wanted to offer a bit of a retrospect on the series and give my thoughts on it now that I've had time to sort of mull things over, with the view of answering one single question. Was the Book of Boba Fett a mistake? Was this time and money that Disney should have spent working on another series? Did the series make Star Wars worse? And I guess just generally, did I like the Book of Boba Fett and do I want to see a season 2? Now, very strangely, I've been accused of being negative about the Book of Boba Fett, and I actually feel like I'm the opposite. I've been pretty much a fan of everything the Book of Boba Fett has done. Yeah, I took some issues with direction in the final episode. I think tonally, some things weren't always quite right. But with that being said, if you actually watch the video, I think you will not be surprised to learn that no, I don't think the Book of Boba Fett was a mistake, and I want to talk about why I think this show should get a season 2 and why I'm happy that it was made. Though, I will say, the Book of Boba Fett was not perfect. I alluded to this earlier. Tonally, there were some issues. I think also the plot needed a lot in terms of focus. One of the biggest issues with the Book of Boba Fett, and one thing that definitely did detract from the series, or at least the first season, is that it couldn't quite figure out its personality. It couldn't quite figure out what it wanted to do with itself. And I think this is partially because the Book of Boba Fett was serving somewhat as a stopgap between The Mandalorian season 2 and 3. And not only that, but it was also standing in as the only Star Wars show for a year. This is a theory that I've talked about before, but I honestly believe that the Book of Boba Fett ended up featuring Grogu and Luke because Disney knew that people would really want to hear the story of The Mandalorian and that they wouldn't be satisfied if they had to wait 2 years. They wanted to capitalize on general fan interest and also keep that interest strong. That ends up causing, I think, the show's main issue, the fact that episodes 5 and 6 are pretty much divorced from the rest of the plot, and we take an already shortened season and essentially shorten it even more by taking away valuable time which could have been spent progressing the plot. The show needed more episodes, it needed more time, it needed another hour or two to really flesh out Boba Fett's gang, why we care about the mods, more about Black Chrysanthemum, really establish the relationship that already exists between Boba Fett and Cad Bane, and also to give more time for the final conflict to play out. Episode 7 was sort of in a strange spot. They had to wrap up the season, they had to wrap up the conflict, but they didn't have enough time to establish some final battle on a grand scale, which would have taken multiple episodes. On the other hand, that meant that they needed to have essentially a skirmish go a full episode's length, so we get, I think, some sloppy direction. We get scenes which would have worked better had they been shorter. We get some silliness, and that detracted from the final episode for sure. That being said, even with that major issue, I do think the bones of the Book of Boba Fett were good, and that the show, with a new suite of Star Wars television shows alongside of it, could lend itself very, very well to season 2. And I do believe that season 2 is probably coming. I mean, some of the costume work and some of the effects and props that we've seen created for this show feel like they'd be such a waste to lose. Black Chrysanthemum's suit, for example, is one of the best Wookiee suits I've ever seen. We saw major upgrades in terms of Twi'leks, Trandoshans, and other creatures, and yeah, those could be applicable to other shows, but I just think we need to see some of those characters come back. I just feel like it would be a waste at this point. But yeah, alongside these other shows, that means that the Book of Boba Fett could now tell a story that it probably should have told in season 1, less focused on the Mandalorian and the overall universe, and more about Boba Fett building his new empire. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. There are so many interesting stories they can tell with Boba Fett now that they've put the work in establishing his backstory and why he's a different character now. I mean, there's some argument to be made that they didn't fully go over why he's seemingly different than what we expected. I personally was happy with the transformation they showed. Either way though, they spent a lot of time during flashbacks, and now that's all taken care of. This next season could fully be about him going on adventures to other planets. Tatooine is secure, so we could see him move to Nar Shaddaa, face some larger crime syndicate, maybe Crimson Dawn or the Hutts. Maybe we get an even deeper look at the fringe and the criminal underworld outside of what we've seen in this show so far in The Mandalorian. I just think that all would be great, but I don't want to get too far down the maybes or the what ifs, because this is ultimately a retrospective on season 1. And I do have to say, notwithstanding the issues that I mentioned earlier, this is a show that made me happy, and to me that's the most important thing. This was a show that I looked forward to watching every single week, and that I'm sad is gone now. Is it as good as The Mandalorian season 1 or 2? Probably not, but I think my friend Corey, who's the co-host for our podcast Tapcaf Transmissions, put things in a really interesting and thoughtful way. The Book of Boba Fett is a lot like the Star Wars prequels. There are issues with direction and writing, but ultimately, the experience is always fun. It gets to the heart of what makes Star Wars, and there are some particularly touching moments. And yeah, that is largely the same thing with the prequels, at least episodes 1 and 2. Of course, if you watch Attack of the Clones, there are some serious issues with dialogue and pacing and other things, but you can tell that they're trying to make something that's fun and that's vibrant, and I certainly don't feel bored watching that movie. I feel the same with the Book of Boba Fett. There were slow moments, there were moments that were better than others, but it's colorful, it's fun, and it's overall a Star Wars experience that I really enjoyed. I'm happy that the Book of Boba Fett exists as well because we saw some really interesting technology. Everyone's going to point to Luke Skywalker and how he was recreated. That's obvious, but we also saw new locations produced with detail never before seen in a Star Wars movie or TV show. I did a whole video covering how the ring that we see in that one episode has a full structure to it. The detail that you see flying above Mos Espa is just next level, and this is technology that's going to be used for future productions. I can't wait to see the Disney Plus version of Coruscant. I also love the planet Tatooine. I know that this is something that a lot of people won't relate to, but Tatooine is one of my favorite locations in Star Wars. I love the fact that there is this planet that's so inhospitable. There are these vast stretches of desert where there are these nomadic tribes alongside these mythical creatures, but then there are also these settlements which have their own sort of underground. There's criminal syndicates and secret bases, underground layers, cantinas, scum and villainy. I just find it to be such a compelling location, and it was really cool to revisit that, I thought at least. And as someone who loved Return of the Jedi, I could just watch a show like this all day. I also thought it was really cool to see things from Star Wars in the past brought back. It's a small thing, but as somebody who used to watch Return of the Jedi literally every day as a kid, seeing new scenes with even Max Rebo or the torture droid, it's meaningful. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, that's just, member berries, as South Park calls it. But I don't know. I'm not claiming that it's necessarily high art, but I'm still happy that the Book of Boba Fett exists in the Star Wars universe and that the show was made. I'm really hoping for a season 2, primarily because of something that I haven't even mentioned yet, Temuera Morrison. He is an excellent Boba Fett actor. I think he brings so much to the role. I think it's really cool how his cultural roots have been brought out through the show as well. I would love to see more of that, and I just hope they find a way to keep him involved in Star Wars, whether through the role of clones or in Boba Fett, preferably both. But guys, that's my thoughts, and this is going to be, I think, a video where the comment section goes wildly in 2 different directions. I know a lot of people were disappointed by the Book of Boba Fett. I'm not at all here to tell you that you were wrong. That's totally valid, but if you were like me and you're happy that it exists, also let me know down in the comments. I'll be reading lots of them. Till next time though, guys, be safe, have a good one, and may the Force be with you.